Hi Stampers, this is Kim with Great Inspirations. I'm so glad you're joining me today. We are going to continue on our exploration of Z-fold cards. Last week, in my video, I talked about the very basic Z-folds, the portrait version and the landscape version. And today's Z-folds are basically build on that idea. And some of you may have made these before, and we are going to do a landscape and portrait version of each card. I'll walk you through how to fold and put them together. The first one we're going to do is a double Z fold. And I've made these before, my videos. Very easy to make. You basically have your main card base and then a smaller card that you place on the larger one. And for some reason when I make these, I always go with some kind of ocean theme. I don't know. And that's what I did this time. So anyway, this is a basic, this is the double Z fold. And last week I kept saying, now I know I've put a panel on the back of some of these. Oh, and I did. Here we go. I call this a Z fold with a band because it has this band that runs along the bottom. But in reality, it's very, very similar to this. We're just changing up the little card a little bit to make it a band. It's very, very similar. And then here are the portrait versions of the double Z fold, and then the Z fold with a band. And yes, they do stand up. That's the fun thing about Z fold cards. They certainly do stand up. The other thing, they have a lot of different little, I call them nooks and crannies, lots of little spaces that you can put papers or stamp greetings or, put little images. Or you can keep this one. It's pretty much just, plain, but it's really nice looking, I think. I like the little embellishments that kind of just fade right into the card. And this one. So, like I said, we have our double Z fold and we have our Z fold with the band, and they're both in landscape and portrait versions. So let's go first with our landscape. And we'll talk about how to score for the double Z fold. So last week I used my Score Buddy, the little teeny one that I love to have here at my desk because it's just the right size. And I think we can do all the scoring we need for these cards on this. So for our double Z fold, we got a little chart here. You start with cardstock that is 11 by 4 1/4. And then we're going to score at 2 3/4 inches and 5 1/2 inches. That's for the main card base. So here we go. I'm going to start with scoring at 5 1/2. And then I'm going to move down to the 2 3/4. And then we're going to just put this aside for now because we're going to get our smaller card. And the base for it is 9 inches by 3 1/4. And we're going to score at 3 6. So put it in here and we will score at 3 6. That's all the scoring we need to do for that one. We'll come in here and do some folding. For this, we're going to fold back. It's a mountain fold and then a valley fold. A fold folder here somewhere. And then we'll fold this in half on that 5 1/2 inch score line. And then on that 2 3/4, we're going to fold the front fold it back, just like we're folding it in half. Now the measurements for the cards, but also for the layers, those are all on my corresponding blog post, and there will be a link to that blog post in the description of this video. So now we have our card base and our mini card, and now it's just a matter of putting it on. So we only need, this piece, we only need some adhesive on the, well, it's going to be the right hand side. Let me get my adhesive and get all these silicone craft sheet, all this stuff in here. And let's make sure, get this kind of, what I do, I center it. I try my best to center this piece between here and here, and sometimes it's just not going to work to get it exactly square, but it'll be okay. It'll work. So we're going to open this up, put adhesive over to the left, fold it down. We're going to open this up, and you can put adhesive all over the back of it. This one will be just fine because it will be covered. And there's our double Z fold. If you look down there, you can see there's a little box, a little rectangular box. And that's all there is to that double Z fold in landscape orientation. And like I said, that's this card right here. So we'll put this aside, and now we'll talk about how to make the Z fold with a band. It's very much like the Z fold, the double Z fold. As you can see a little box down there too. That's a fun thing about these Z fold cards. So here we have the diagram. And basically these two things are scored at the same place. This one's just been scored. I mean, if you use these measurements to score this, it'll be fine, because 2 3/4 corresponds with 5 1/2, and the 5 1/2 will correspond with the 8 1/4. It's going to be okay, whichever one you choose to use. But I'm going to try to go with this one, because I think I'll use my trimmer, because that little score, this little score buddy only goes to 3 3/4. So to kind of cut down on some of the confusion, which I know I've already confused you like crazy, but we'll use my trimmer, and we'll get some cardstock, and it is 11 by 4 1/4, and we're going to put it in here at 2 3/4, and we're going to score. Then we'll move it down to 5 1/2. I'm going to have to open this arm up because I'm going to need that in a minute. 5 1/2, and we'll score. Then we're going to move it down to 8 1/4. And I almost cut, but we'll score. Okay. So, I've got that. I'm sorry, I did that was totally wrong. I scored one time too many. Okay, let's try this again. We are going to go at 2 3/4. I know, I could edit it, but I don't believe in editing. I want you to see that I make as many mistakes as anybody else. So 2 3/4 and 5 1/2. That's kind of half the fun of making cards, is you make a mistake, but sometimes those mistakes end up being good, because you, number one, find out what not to do, and number two, you might find a new card fold. So we're just going to fold this at 5 1/2, and then we're going to fold this one back, which, like I said, I think I got it just a little bit over. And then we've got our Z, and now we'll be ready for our strip, which is 11 by 1 1/4. Now, if you wanted to make this wider, you can certainly do that. The length needs to remain the same, but you can make it wider. And that's the same with the double Z fold. If you want that small card to be a little bit, like instead of 3 1/4 inches tall, being 3 1/2, you could do that, just as long as the length stays the same. So now, this tells me that I need to score at 5 1/2. And 8 1/4. But we're going to flip this over, and we're going to go put the score line right here. And it lines right up with 2 3/4. So if you wanted to score it this 2 3/4 of 5 1/2, just like you did on the main card base, you can do that, because it's going to end up being exactly the same. It'll be just exactly what you need it to be. So we will put this away and pull out this, and we're going to, the long piece, we're going to do a mountain fold. That's at the 5 1/2 inch score line. And then we're going to do a valley fold. These two little ones. And then see how this matches up. Well, so what we need to do is flip it. And we're going to adhere this right here and this piece right here. So let's do that. Let's put some adhesive on here. Let's line it up. And we'll bring this down here. Just need to get some adhesive. I think we can put it all the way across. That ought to do. Just going to line it up right like that. And there is our Z fold with a band. That's all there is to that. And that's what this card is. So we'll put those over there and put this away. And now we've got these two with their portrait orientation. And you cut them and fold them just like we have for the other two. So let's bring these where you can kind of see them. Okay, so this one, I've already have it scored. It is for this, for the double Z fold. And here's the little card. And yes, the measurements, the scoring measurements are different, and this panel is different. And it is 6 1/2 by 3 1/2, and you score it at 2 1/4 and 4 3/8. And then this is, of course, 8 1/2 by 5 1/2. I need to see where we score it here. At 4 1/2 and 6 3/8, or 2 1/8 and 4 1/2. It's the exact same thing. 2 1/8, 4 1/2. And all we do is just exactly like we did for our other double Z fold. We get this where we want it. Now you can center it. You can move it more up to the top if you want, more down to the bottom. It's up to you. I'm going to kind of sort of center it. We do it just like before. Just put some adhesive just on the one side, close it up, fold it over, put adhesive on this piece, close our card. There you go. And that is the double Z fold in portrait orientation. So we'll put that over on that pile, and we put these over here. And now, if I can find my other one. There it is. I have to find my cardstock. There it is. Oh, I'm going crazy. I was going crazy last week. I'm going even crazier this week. Okay. I'm trying to get these videos done because we're going to take a little vacation. And just a quick trip. But yeah, I'm kind of losing my mind. But anyway, here we go. Here is the card base. And it's 8.5 by 5.5. We're going to score it at 5.5 and 2 1/8 or 6 3/8. Entirely up to you. It just depends on if you're like, when you're scoring, if you feel this is the front of the cardstock and this is the front of your card base and this is the back, or vice versa. That's the only difference. And on my blog, I talk about that. I'll give you whichever, both measurements, and you use whichever one is most comfortable for you. Okay? So we're going to, of course, fold this at 5.5, and then we're going to fold our card front in half. And then we have this piece, and it is 8.5. It cannot possibly be 8.5 by 5.5. It is 8.5, and I'm thinking that is 1.5. 8.5 by 1.5. And we're going to do exactly what we did for this card. I'm just going to put our adhesive on here. And then we're going to put adhesive on here. Close up our card. And there it is. That is our Z-fold with a band in portrait orientation. So that's the one we just did. The Z-fold with the band in portrait orientation. And here it is in landscape. And then here is our double Z-fold in portrait. And our double Z-fold in landscape. Now, yes, I did make Christmas cards. I did, to add to my collection. I didn't make any in the portrait. I just made, here's the double. And then here's the one with the band, the Z-fold with the band. You notice anything? I didn't put my greeting on it. It's because I'm not really sure. I'm trying to decide between two greetings, and I just thought I needed to let it set for a while, and then I'll figure that out later. But you get the idea. And on this one, I did put panel on the back because it just didn't seem like there was really much room to write. And at Christmas, I usually write a little bit more of a message than I might for the birthday. And I didn't put a panel on that one. But anyway, there you have it. And like I said, all of those measurements and the scoring and the optional scoring, all that will be available on my corresponding blog post. And the link to that blog post is in the description of this video. Thank you for joining me. And until next time, stamp happy.